the WGA, as we said, they did reach a tentative agreement with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, otherwise known as the AMPTP, on a new 3-year minimum basic agreement. Now, on September 26th, the negotiating committee, the WGA West Board, and the WGA East Council all voted unanimously to recommend the agreement. It will now go to both guilds' memberships for a ratification vote. Now, all eligible voters will be able to vote from October 2nd, which is this coming Monday, through October 9th, and will receive ballot and ratification materials when the vote opens. Now, the WGAW board and the WGA East Council also voted to lift the restraining order and end the strike as of 12:01 a.m. Pacific time this past Wednesday, which was awesome. Now, this allowed writers to return to work during the ratification process, but does not affect the membership's right to make a final determination on the contract approval. Here's the rundown of the key issues that have been settled in the tentative agreement that the Writers Guild of America reached on September 24th with the AMTP. Are you ready? Because, guys, get ready. Like Logan said, buckle in. This is a lot, but it's important, and we want to try to clear this up for you guys.
We really do. And one of the big things was the minimum TV writers room for staffing because, with the streaming stuff, it kind of limits everything. So that was a big issue. So the WGA asked for a minimum of 6 writers for a series that has been greenlit for at least 6 episodes per season. Now, the agreement calls for at least 3 writer/producer members who are more senior to be hired on all series, and that number can include the showrunner as well. The number of members at the more junior writer or staff level will rise on a sliding scale depending on the number of episodes ordered. Now, a 6-episode series calls for at least 3 writer-level hires. Series that runs about 7 to 12 episodes per season have to hire at least 5 writers. Now, series that run for 13 episodes or more must hire 6 writers. The new component of the contract makes an exception for solo writer shows, such as The White Lotus or Big Little Lies, in which all episodes are written by a single writer. Now, in those cases, the writer's initial deal with the studio, network, or streamer must call for the writer to work as a solo act from the get-go, from the start. Or, as described by the Guild in its summary of deal highlights, the minimum staff levels are enforced unless a single writer is engaged to write all the episodes. There are also new rules about the deterrent of employment for writers. And there is yet another stipulation designed to ensure that less experienced writers get the chance to observe the production and post-production process. Now, per the Guild's, 2 writer-producers must be employed for lesser of 20 weeks of production or the duration of production along with the showrunner. Now, that addresses the concern that the writers and writer-producers are not getting the exposure and apprenticeship time they need to develop into full-fledged showrunners. Now, for pre-greenlit rooms, aka during the development process, requirements are that if 3 writers are hired, at least 3 writer-producers, including the showrunner, be granted 10 consecutive weeks of employment. Now, that addresses complaints from writers that the short duration of contemporary writers' rooms made for difficult work experiences and hard to amass enough earnings to qualify for healthcare. Moreover, if a series is born out of a pre-greenlit development room, at least 2 writer-producers who worked in the pre-greenlit room must be hired for the series writer's room. So that's all of that.
Yeah, and I really like that. So the larger the episode count, the more writers are required to be hired. And I'm glad you also cleared up, because I think a lot of people were trying to figure this out. Like, what about the Taylor Sheridans? What about those people that write the whole show themselves? Are they going to be forced to hire these extra writers? And so apparently the answer is no, they are not
Yeah.
going to be forced to do that. So, okay, what was the next big thing that they were worried about, right? The one thing that they're like, no, we have to have this taken care of, because they were getting slighted. I'm, of course, talking about residuals. We all saw them posting about their residuals, that they were getting 49 cents here, $1.29 there. Well, the WGA fought hard and secured what the AMPTP dubbed a success-based bonus for made-for-streaming TV programs and movies. Now, the paltry residual fees that writers receive from streaming platforms was one of the animating forces for the walkout, like I said. The new formula pays writers a bonus for original TV shows and movies that are broad-based hits for subscription-based platforms such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple TV Plus, Max, Hulu, and other streamers. Now, the bonus covers high-budget, made-for-streaming titles. Most original series on major streamers meet the high budget threshold, but the emphasis on made-for-streaming titles means that older series that were originally produced for non-streaming platforms, for example, the USA Network drama Suits, that has recently been a popular binge watch for Netflix users, would not qualify for the bonus. That doesn't seem right. For made-for-streaming titles that are viewed by 20% or more of the service's domestic subscribers in the first 90 days of release, or the first 90 days of any subsequent year that the title is on the platform, writers will receive a bonus ranging anywhere from $9,000 to $16,400 for TV episodes and $40,500 for a feature film with a budget of over $30 million. Now, this bonus structure takes effect this bonus structure takes effect for titles released after January 1st of 2024. The bonuses are equal to 50% of the fixed domestic and foreign residuals, even though the viewership threshold is only based on U.S. subscribers. Now, the focus on engagement across the service's subscriber base was on a solution that allowed for apple-to-apples comparisons for a smaller platform like Apple TV compared to Netflix with its more than 76 million subscribers in the U.S. Now, as expected, the WGA also will see a big hike in foreign streaming residuals coming under the new contract. Similar to the terms baked into the Directors Guild of America contract that was set in May, the foreign residual calculation is expected to bring in a 76% increase in foreign residual payments over the 3 years for the streamers, with the largest global subscriber bases over 3 years. Now, the WGA said Netflix's foreign residual payments for an hour-long episode of TV will climb to $32,830 over the 3-year time frame, compared to what it is now at $18,684. So that is a significant jump. All of that sounds amazing, except for these licensed shows that are now huge hits. They're not going to get fucking paid for that. I mean...
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm interpreting that as, this will start in the new year. So all past projects, this does not count for. This does not count towards.
Correct.
Yeah.
And anything that wasn't made for a streamer. So you're talking Frasier, Friends, like Big Bang, all these shows that were made for network that are currently running on the streamers all over the place. They are never going to get these bonuses because it is strictly made for streamer content. And what does that say about Yellowstone? Because Yellowstone was a Paramount Network show first before it was Paramount Plus. So,
well, and it's in the past, like we just talked about. It
Yeah.
has to be shows that come out in 2024 or beyond that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just crazy bonkers to me, because there are all these big shows like a Succession or like a Yellowstone, like you said, that I'm sure just do massive numbers, or like we brought up earlier, like Suits, that they're getting nothing, bare minimum, back to the old contract. So that's super unfortunate.
Well, you know what I think the solution for Suits is? Revival.
Yeah, right.
The revival will be made for the streamer, specifically made for the streamer. Everybody wants it. Everybody. I mean, Patrick J got scolded for saying that he wanted it. Like, SAG came right after him. He had to apologize. What the fuck? But I mean, I think that would be the way, right? If there's a popular show that's currently on a streamer that wasn't made for the streamer, and it's been a while since it was originally aired, fucking bring that shit back as a revival and pay those people. I think that's the way we're going to see it go. I'm just saying.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. And another big one that, I mean, a lot of people were talking about, a lot of outside people thought the strike was due to this. Of course, this was just a part of it, along with the residuals and different things. But we're talking about artificial intelligence, AI, because ChatGPT popped up and everybody's kind of scared of it. Well, the WGA wrangled guardrails around the use of generative AI in the creative process, including a provision that gives the guild itself the power to challenge the use of writers' existing work to train AI software programs. Now, AI generated material can't be used to undermine the writer's credit or separated rights. The contract language states, per the guild, AI can't write or rewrite literary material, and AI generated material will not be considered source material under the MBA, meaning that the AI generated material can't be used to undermine the writer's credit or separated rights. And also, a writer can choose to use AI when performing writing services if the company consents and provided that the writer follows applicable company policies, but the company can't require the writer to use the AI software, like what I just said, ChatGPT, when performing the writing services. The company must also disclose to the writer if any materials given to the writer have been generated by AI or incorporated AI generated material. So they have to be informed. And the WGA reserves the right to assert the exploitation of writers' materials to train AI is prohibited by the MBA or other law. So that's something that's really big there. So not getting the credit. So that was really big. They were worried that writers would basically be eliminated, exterminated, as you could say, from their jobs. And they have the ability to say, no, I don't want to use this, or yes, I do want to use this. I feel like that's very important.
For sure. And I think the biggest thing in there too that I saw is that I'm thrilled to see is that they can't take past scripts from these writers to train AI to write new scripts. Because I think a lot of people are worried about that. Well, we'll just feed it seasons 1 through 4 and then tell it to write seasons 5 through 8 based on what it learns from the first 4 seasons. Well, they're not allowed to do that. So I also like that they give the writers a choice. If they want to be helped by AI a little bit, they have the choice to do it if they want to, but they have to inform everybody else that that's the case. I think this is good. This seems like a fair thing for AI, for the writers. I think that was a good solution. It's going to be more tricky for the actors, I think, because they're going to have to get paid for when they're generated. That's all. Yeah. We'll get into that. Agreed. But this seems pretty good for the writers. Now, for screenwriters, the contract enshrines the policy of ensuring that the vast majority of screenwriters will get a second step or paid to do at least one rewrite of a draft screenplay. Now, the AMPTP initially offered to agree to those terms only on wholly original screenplays, not projects that are derived from existing intellectual property or reboots or remakes of older titles. Now, the WGA worried that nuanced terms would only encourage studios to pursue more remakes and IP-driven content. So under the new terms per the Guild, a second step is required whenever a writer is hired for a first draft screenplay for 200% of minimum or less, including original and non-original screenplays. It also applies to spec scripts that are purchased outside of the usual development process. Now, another big gripe among feature writers in recent years has been the slowness in the payment schedules for the screenplays. Screenwriters who earn 200% of the WGA minimum or less must be paid half of that fee now at the start of the deal. If a draft isn't delivered within 9 weeks, another 25% of the fee is due the writer, with the remaining 25% to be paid after the delivery of the draft. Now, screenwriters working on made-for-streaming films will also see an 18% gain on minimum compensation for story and teleplays, which rises to $100,000 for movies with a budget of $30 million or more. This gain, coupled with the foreign residual streaming increases, will yield a residual of about $216,000 over 3 years for titles airing on the largest services, which marks a 49% increase from the terms the Guild's previous contract inked in 2020. So, yeah, those are significant jumps, and I like those protections. I mean, if you deliver this, you get this. If you deliver this, you get this. If you have to rewrite this much of the script, you get this. I like that. That sounds good.
Oh, most definitely. And everybody's been curious too, because in Hollywood, there is a lot of writing duos. There is a lot of writing teams like the Duffers, the Russos, the list goes on and on.
And us.
Well, yeah, and us. Writers who work as duos, though, or in larger groups, have long been handicapped under the Guild contract to earn the minimum threshold each year to qualify for healthcare benefits. That's because the fees made up by duos had to be split between the two writers or whoever's in the group, which made it harder to reach the earning threshold. Now, for the purposes of calculating health and pension benefits, each writer will be credited with earning the full fee, even though it is split across the team. Now, per the Guild, each writer on a writing team employed for a script will receive pension and health contributions up to the relevant cap as though they were a single writer, rather than splitting the apical cap. Now, in addition, when a writing team is employed on a series, the contribution for each writer on the team will be made on a full weekly minimum instead of one half of a weekly minimum.
So that's awesome. Because that would affect people like us. If you write as a duo, why should you only get the fee for one writer and have to split it? That's totally fucked up.
Completely agree, because everybody's got to eat, everybody's got to work, everybody gets sick. So you need to be able to go to the doctor.
Hell yes.
But now that the writer's strike is over, Hollywood studios are gearing up to get production rolling again. Once the other half of this year's dual strike, the ongoing SAG-AFTRA walkout, is finally settled. From Star Trek to Superman Legacy to Abbott Elementary to Wednesday, every studio, network, and streamer has priority film and television projects that they hope to fast track back into development or production.
Facts.
Now, audiences cannot survive reruns alone. Had the strikes lasted a few weeks longer, the 2023-2024 broadcast season would have become even more dependent on unscripted shows and programs imported from streaming platforms and overseas markets. Now, several big movie projects could see pre-production resume very quickly. Paramount is hoping to have writers fine-tuning scripts for its planned reboot of Star Trek and the adaptation of Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. And Warner Brothers, of course, would dearly love to see Matt Reeves hunched over on his computer, diving back into Gotham's underworld with his planned the Batman sequel. Now, other projects such as Minecraft and James Gunn's Superman Legacy have completed scripts altogether and can begin production this spring, assuming their deals with actors. We're still just waiting on that one. But Universal is hoping that the resolution of the writer's strike will mean that the studio will get back to its new draft of Fast X Part 2. I mean, you don't have to.
Right. I mean, that one would be okay if you don't.
Currently expected to roll out in theaters April 4th of 2025. But as soon as the SAG-AFTRA's work stoppage ends, production can resume on several major movies, including the sequel to The Gladiator, which was almost halfway done filming when cameras stopped rolling at Malta in July as actors started picketing. Now there is another Mission Impossible's Dead Reckoning Part 2, the globe-spanning adventure that is still had some scenes to shoot, as well as Beetlejuice 2, as well as Clint Eastwood's Juror Number 2, and the much anticipated Deadpool 3, and in some cases only had a few days work remaining. Such bad timing. As also the stalled Twister sequel to the 1996 tornado thriller starring Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones as the Storm Chasers. That project was roughly a week into production in Oklahoma before it was shut down. So, I mean, there's so many freaking things. Dude. And I know you're super excited about all of your television ones.
Oh, heck yeah, man. And, it's so funny about what you just talked about with the screenwriters and then getting paid based on original screenplays or rewriting, and they were worried about the studios leaning towards the remakes or sequels. Everything you just listed that's about to go back into production were fucking sequels or remakes. So there's why they were worried. I mean, but I am excited about most of those, especially Twisters, because I loved Twister. And Glenn Powell's just been slaying lately, bro. So I'm excited for that one. And you're right, I am excited about TV too. So what's happening there? Well, on the television front, most networks and streamers are focused on picking back up with long-running shows and big-budget freshman series that were in pre-production or already shooting. Rather than, and this is not good news for us, but we're going to deal with it anyway, rather than developing anything new. That's because they won't have to put in as much time filling out writers' rooms or casting new roles. Instead, especially for shows many seasons in, they can reassemble the same ensembles and creative teams and get back to work relatively quickly. Now, as soon as the actors endorse a deal, broadcast shows such as ABC's Grey's Anatomy and Abbott Elementary, Fox's 911 Lone Star, and Dick Wolf's Law & Order, Chicago, and FBI franchises are among the top priority projects to begin shooting. But that also means it could be a rough couple of months of return-to-work schedules for the writers and talent attached to those shows. Now, while those episodes are being fast-tracked, you could expect any remaining holes in the broadcast October and November plans to be full of some more wild little experiments, like CBS deciding to air reruns of Yellowstone, a hit sister for its cable network Paramount Network, which has proven to be a big draw for the broadcast audience, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Now, TV development budgets for 2024 are expected to be greatly pared down as the studios work through the backlog after the 5-month strike pause. Now, on the movie side, some titles that were targeted for the debut in 2024 and 2025 will have to still be delayed. That's a problem for cinemas, which have been struggling with the dearth of new releases for more than 2 years because of the COVID pandemic and upended shooting schedules back in 2020 and 2021. So we're going to see a lot, but it's going to take a little bit, and we might still see some plug-in with reruns or different things like that. But it is great news, and then it's also sad news. Because of the strike and losing all the money that they lost, creators that may have had projects in the works might not see it now. Or if they do get greenlit, it might be for significantly less than what they were going to make off of it before all of this. So that's difficult, but that's just something the industry is going to have to overcome, because at some point they are going to need new content. And I mean, so we'll get back there. I think it was the right thing to do to get the right deals for everybody, and then we'll worry about trying to recover from what happened, right? I mean, first let's fix it, and then we'll get over what happened. So
Exactly. Everything takes time.